Hey everybody, it is your boy Blue here, and this week we have a continuation that was a surprise for the week from last week and the week before and the week before. So here's the deal. We're doing a budget battle brew. It is a commander budget deck. However, this one is another customer build. I said last week that I was finished building, my videos for the last 3 weeks were all for the same customer. And surprise, surprise, this week and next week are also for that same customer because the decks that I sent them, they loved. And they requested even more decks. In between, I was supposed to do a sliver video. A customer had requested me to make them a sliver deck. However, the deck was an incomplete deck as they only wanted most of the cards for the deck. And I don't like doing videos where the deck's not complete often. So I skipped doing a video for it because I plan on doing a sliver deck of my own, so I didn't want to double up. So this week, we'll do the customer request from the same customer from the previous 3 videos. This time, they requested a commander deck, specific, and then a freeform or a kitchen table style 60-card deck that ended up becoming modern anyway. Alright, so the first request was Dalakos, Crafter of Wonders. That's specifically what was asked for, was a Dalakos deck. Along with that, they had some things they wanted. And the things they wanted was, they wanted a lot of artifact equipment. And then they also had a budget for both decks combined of $100. So what I did was I divvied it up to be 50 and 50. So this is still a budget brew. It's just $10 over my normal budget. So let's get into the deck. Dalakos, Crafter of Wonders. It is an Izzet commander, blue, red, and white, or I'm sorry, blue, red, and 1. It's a 2/4 Merfolk Artificer. The ability on Dalakos is to tap it to add 2 colorless. That's what that mana symbol means. And then you can only spend this mana to cast artifacts or activate abilities of artifacts. And then the bonus on the top of that is equipped creatures you control have flying and haste. And then that was pretty much all I had to go by. So I had to come up with my own deck that I wanted to build. And here's the cool part. I actually had Dalakos set aside for a deck I was going to build for a budget brew anyway. It just happened to align up correctly. So let's go over what I did. The main theory here is going to be, obviously, equipment, extra artifact stuff. And here's the cool part that nobody thought about, or at least he didn't think about. His name is Zeke, by the way. He didn't think to do certain things with it that I'm going to show you. What I came up with was unblockable creatures that are equipped almost like a Voltron-esque. However, instead of Dalakos being commander damage, unfortunately, he's not really built for that. He's built for ramping into the other stuff. So I tried to make the creatures, as many of them as I could, artifacts so that he could ramp them up. And then, of course, everything else in here will go along with the theme. So let's go over it. Everything else. Now you know what Dalakos does. And then we'll go over. So as I always do, I start with the lands. Remember, we're on a budget. So this is not much different than my regular battle brews. So the lands had to be a little less costly as far as monetary value goes. So if you've seen my videos before, you'll see a theme here that I normally do. So we've got Temple of Epiphany as the rare for the lands. Not the greatest of lands, but it works. And then all the rest of them do the same thing. So they all come into play tapped and have an additional thing. So Highland Lake, Izzet Boilerworks was the bounce land that I added in here, and it is a Guildgate. And then Swift Water Cliffs for the gain of life. And then now I have enough of the thriving lands that I can start adding them into decks because they actually do mana fixing. Unfortunately, they come into play tapped, but I mean, they'd be really powerful otherwise. So I've got the red and the blue versions. I've recently mentioned for my commander decks that I started liking these decks because, or these cards, these ones specifically, because they come into play untapped. So they don't have to affect your land drops and your speed when using them. So Painted Bluff, because it comes into play untapped and adds a colorless. If you need the mana fixing, however, you can pay 1 and tap it to get the mana you need. Same thing with the Shimmering Grotto. I mentioned every single time, it's good to have at least one form of land destruction in your deck. You never know what you're going to face, so I always put something in here. This one was Field of Ruin. And Evolving Wilds, because I wanted to thin the deck out a little bit, which I know that's what fetch lands are for, but the budget was 50 total for a 100-card deck. And then I'll have the rest equal mountains and islands just so that we can fill out the deck and get what we need in play. All right? So that's the land section. We're going to move on to the ramp section. And remember, red and blue, not really good at doing ramp. So Dalakos is a form of ramp, so that's always good to have in your command zone. Access to something that ramps, so we'll go over the rest. Whenever I do a budget deck that is above the $40 budget, I sacrifice my own stash of things sometimes if it's called for to be able to, make a deck stronger for somebody. So we have a Soul Ring and an Arcane Signet. Normally I don't add them into my budget decks because I don't have enough of them. When somebody's willing to pay a premium for a deck, I like to add that in. A Mind Stone. So again, Dalakos can actually cast this on his own. The good thing about Mind Stones also is that you can sacrifice it to draw a card when you don't need the ramp. You're going to see some different forms of ramp here because they don't have, other than mana rocks, blue and red don't have a lot. So I'll show you what I did here. So Burnished Heart, which I saw is just now is being reprinted in Baldur's Gate. So it's a 3 to cast, 2/2, that you can pay 3, sack it, and search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, and put them on the battlefield. So actual ramp, but not quick. Different forms of ramp here. So I decided to go with, it's not technically ramp, it's actually cost reduction. So like a Foundry Inspector, which makes all your artifacts cost 1 less to cast. He's a 3 to cast, 3/2 to boot, so it's on a body. Jorah is familiar, same theory here, so it's 4 to cast for a 2/2 flyer. The part you're looking for here is that your historic spells cost 1 less to cast. Historic spells are known as artifacts, legendaries, and sagas, okay? We got a lot of artifacts in here. Solemn Simulacrum, another form or a different form of ramp. He's a 4 to cast 2/2, but when he comes into play, you can search your library for a basic land card and put it on the battlefield tapped. And when he dies, you also get to draw a card. So he has bonuses to each side of him. Now, there is going to be a little synergy with him later on. I'll show you that when I get to it. And then finally, Ethereum Sculptor. Again, another form of making your things cost less. So I have 3 cost reducers here in these 3 cards here. That's not really ramp so much as cost reduction, but it helps ramp. So those are the ramps, cards that I've chosen to throw in here for him. Creature side is going to be a little bit more fun, a little bit more interesting. Remember, the theme here was supposed to be equipment, so you can make somebody big and go hit for a big amount of damage. What better way to do that than using ones that are unblockable in the colors? Now, most of the ones that are unblockable in the 2 colors were blue. There's going to be other things in here that are utilitarian. We'll go over that. So start off on the 1-drops, Slither Blade, so it's just a 1/2. Good thing about this one is it has a 2 toughness, so it's a little bit more resilient. Remember, though, we are an equipment deck, so what that means now is that he's going to get bigger. So he's not just a 1/2, he's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, so that's always good. Now, also remember, with Dalakos out, when you equip something, they also have haste and flying. So next up is Hazy Homunculus. So not technically, unblockable, but can be unblockable. So he is unblockable as long as defending player controls an untapped land. Now, early game, that's not going to be as great. Later game, it's going to be really nice. So usually there's an untapped land somewhere on somebody's board later game. Usually, not always, but it's situational unblockable, but it's still unblockable. Metathran Soldier, however, same thing, 2 to cast 1/1, but this one actually is just unblockable. Aether Figment is a 2 to cast 1/1 with a kicker that's unblockable, but when you kick it, it comes in play with 2+1/+1 counters, growing it to a 3/3. Seafloor Stalker has an ability that makes it actually become unblockable. It's a 3 to cast 2/3. And here's the good thing. Almost everything in here fits the party theme as well. So its ability is for 5, give it +1/+0 until end of turn, and it can't be blocked. The ability costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. Remember that party creatures types are Cleric, Rogue, Warrior, and Wizard. And right off the bat, we have Rogue. And I believe he himself, he's a Rogue. And then you're going to see everything in here except for Clerics, I believe. You're going to see some Wizards and you're going to see some Warriors. So his ability will come down to about 2 to cast. It's repeatable, so you can keep giving him a +1/+0 if you need to. Bethnic Infiltrator, again, another unblockable. This one also has Ingest, eating away at your opponent's library. If that's something, that's beneficial to you, which it should be, it's great. It's also a 1/4, so it has a big ass, so it's harder to kill. Phantom Ninja, 3 to cast, 2/2 unblockable, and a Phantom Warrior, both. Now, remember I said earlier, there's going to be other things. There's a Warrior here. Norok and Visimancer, a Wizard. So I said I'm going to fill out most of the party theme, too. Again, it's a 3 to cast, but it's only a 2/1. It's unblockable, but when he enters the battlefield, you can make target creature unblockable until end of turn. Now, not every creature in here is going to be unblockable, so that's not a bad ability to have. I said there was some synergy with Sadbot or Solemn Simulacrum. So here's one of them, Keymaster Rogue. It's 4 to cast 3/2. It's a Rogue, by the way. He's unblockable. And then whenever it enters the battlefield, return a creature you control to its owner's hand. And with Solemn Simulacrum, or Sadbot, if you will, you can return them to your hand to go get and cast them again later so you can get more land in play. That's some synergy right there. Same thing with Storm Sculptor. It's exactly the same card, just one's in a Merfolk Wizard, the other one's in a Human Rogue. They're both 3/2s, they're both unblockable, and you have to return a creature to your hand when you cast them. So, Soulsworn Spirit, it's a 4 to cast, 2/1 unblockable, but when you cast him, or when he enters the battlefield, technically, you don't have to cast him, he just has to come into play. You detain a creature an opponent controls. What that means is until your next turn, that creature can't attack, block, or activate its abilities. Stormfleet Sprinter, so 3 to cast, 2/2 haste, can't be blocked. Pretty simple. We're done with the unblockables. We're going to go into some of the utilitarian creatures. So Merchant's Dockhand is the first one. It's 1 to cast for a 1/2. It has an ability for a blue and 3, and tap it. You can tap X untapped artifacts you control to look at the top X cards of your library and put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. Essentially, it's a quasi-scry. Now, what's important about him is his ability works very well with equipment because equipment doesn't turn off or anything when it's tapped, and it doesn't do anything tapped or untapped, different than what it's stated on the card. So you can use the equipment that you're casting, that I'll show you later, to use his ability. It's really good synergy there. Welder Automaton. Now, here's 2 cards in a row that are going to be interesting. This is a 2 to cast, 2/1 construct. It's an artifact. So what that means is Dalakos can cast him and help use his abilities. So if his abilities are, and with a colon, meaning you can do it as many times as you have mana for it, 3 colorless and a red, and he'll deal 1 damage to each opponent as many times as you can afford. I have that in there because there is actually a way, I didn't put it in here, but I'll show you, I put half of the combo in here that can get you infinite mana. I will tell you the other cards and both of them when I get to them. The other one that has an ability like that is Watchful Automaton. So he's a 3 cast 2/2. His ability is a little cheaper, so it's 2 colorless and a blue, but it only gets to scry 1. That's to help you get better draws and kind of manipulate the top of your library. Brass Squire, an interesting one. So it's a 3 cast 1/3, and you can tap him to attach an equipment that you control to a creature you control. So you can, at instant speed, swap equipment around, even in the middle of combat. Renowned Weaponsmith. So this is actually the non-legendary form, for the most part, of Dalakos, at least the first ability. So he's a 2 cast 1/3. He can tap to add 2 mana of any 2 colors mana to your mana pool. And again, you can only spend this to cast artifact spells or activate artifact abilities. This should have been in the ramp section, but it's not because he has other abilities that don't really happen to ramp, but he can be ramped. Here's the problem. I didn't include a Heart Piercer bow or a vial of Dragonfire because I don't think that they were worth the spots. If you wanted to, though, you could put them in there. Trinket Mage, so 3 cast 2/2. Again, a wizard, so we're still going with that party theme. When he enters play, you may search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost 1 or less. Reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your library. So basically, it's a tutor for an artifact that's 0 or 1 mana, a la Urza Saga, the new land. Same thing. Tribute Mage, same thing, only this one goes and gets a converted mana cost of 2 specifically, and you can put it in your hand. So these are my tutors that I had that were cost-effective, monetarily speaking. First half of the infinite combo. So, Grand Architect, 3 cast 1/3, gives all your other blue creatures you control +1/+1. So this is a buff to all of your creatures that are going to be attacking, because most of them, if not all of them, are going to be blue. So it helps, they're unblockable, so it helps get more damage through. Other ability is you can pay blue and target artifact creature can become blue until end of turn. I mean, I guess that could actually help in some cases. Maybe Merchant Dockhand if you want to buff them for some reason. The third part of this is where the infinite combo starts. So you can tap an untapped blue creature you control, and it'll add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. But you can only spend this mana, again, to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts. Here's what I didn't do. I didn't have it. Pili-Pala is an equipment that you can untap the creature to add, you can add, I'll have it up here so you can read it. It's just, my mind's running a blank. It helps it so that it's a 2-card combo for infinite mana. So you tap to add 2 colorless, and then you can untap it with Pili-Pala out. I'm drawing a blank on exactly what Pili-Pala reads now just because MS, but whatever. I'll have it up there. It should be here right now. You can read it and you can see it's a 2-card combo for infinite mana. If I'm missing something on that one, I don't think I am, but that, I'll have it up there too. You can see that it'll produce infinite mana, so you can use things like this guy here. All you need is the red. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a way to make the red, but you can still produce enough mana to make this keep going over and over and over again for the amount of mana you have. All right. Fairy Mechanist. So here's the cool thing. Artifact creature, so it can be partially use all the guys that have to add 2 colorless and only to cast artifact spells. It itself is an artifact. 40 cast, 2/2 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library, and you may reveal an artifact from among them and put it in your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library. So not a tutor, so to speak, but a digger. It digs for artifacts. Champion of the Flame. I mean, the obvious thing here is when I show you all of the equipment, this guy is an auto-include. It's a 2 cast 1/1 with trample, and he gets +2/+2 for each R and equipment attached to it, so he'll just get bigger and bigger. So he gets the bonus of +2/+2 plus whatever the equipment gave him. So, and if you have Dalakos out, he additionally gets flying and haste. Kazul's Toll Collector, 3 cast 3/2. Good stats, by the way. Another warrior. And then for 0, now activating his ability can be done only as a sorcery, but as many times as you want. Attach target equipment you control to him. Obviously, it's only as a sorcery because Equip is usually done as a sorcery, so they kind of played that together. But you can activate it as many times. Even if the equipment's already attached to him, you can use if for some reason you add something into the deck that gives you a benefit by activating an ability of a creature, and there are some out there. There's an artifact out there that gets +1/+1 every time you activate a non-mana ability of a creature you control, also an artifact. So this guy, at sorcerer speed, unfortunately, can actually make that guy an infinite power toughness. So I'll have it up there. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it's from the same set that Dockside Extortionist is from. All right, Valda, Keeper of the Flame, up next. This is an actual commander deck that I have that I sell by himself. Valdic is actually quite interesting. He's a 3 cast 3/2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, For each aura and equipment that's attached to Valdic, you create a 3/1 red elemental creature token with trample and haste, and you exile those tokens at the beginning of the next end step. This is a fun commander deck that I made just based on him with the same theory. Now he can be put into another deck to make it just as fun. Hellkite Tyrant. Okay, so it's a 6 to cast, 6/5. I'm sorry that it's not in English. It was the only version I had. So to Zeke, I apologize. I will have the English version up here so you can read it yourself and see what it says. But I will tell you that it is a 6/5 flyer. The bottom line here is that if you, at the beginning of your upkeep, control 20 or more artifacts, you win the game. So this is an alternate win con. And the middle part here reads something like, whenever it deals combat damage to somebody, you basically steal all their artifacts. So it's an alternate win con. And Jorah, Weatherlight Captain, is the final creature. It is a 4 to cast, or she is a 4 to cast, so a blue, a red, and 2 for a 3/3. Whenever you cast a historic spell, draw a card. Good engine for drawing cards in a permanent form. Alright, so those are the creatures. Let me show you the equipment. Equipment's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to have to go over too much here. So we start with Team Pennant. You can see what it does. It equips to token creatures for cheaper, but, you know, you're not using it for that. Silver Inlaid Dagger gives humans additional buffs. Trusty Machete. Basically, everything in here was basically to buff the creature. Because of all the abilities that are being given to all the creatures from Dalakos, I kind of had to find ones that didn't already give those abilities for redundancy purposes, but whatever. Prying Blade helps you ramp. Prying Blade's really good because it's only 1 to cast. Dalakos can equip it to something really quickly, and then it helps you ramp by giving you treasure tokens. Darksteel Axe, indestructible, always good. Explorer Scope is kind of a ramp card, but you kind of need to attack. So whenever a creature attacks, look at the top card of the library, and if it was a land, you can put it into play tapped, so it's a quasi-ramp. Golem Skin Gauntlets is the actual best one in here as far as the theme goes, so it gives +1/+0 for each equipment attached to it, including itself, and it's cheap to cast and equip. So especially with unblockables, you can hit pretty hard pretty fast. Infiltration Lens helps you draw cards. Swiftfoot Boots, obviously, so it gives hexproof and haste, and as much as I didn't want it to be redundant with the haste part of it, I did want the hexproof. Amorphous Axe gives it +3/+0 in every creature type, so now this helps you because if the creature's not a human for some reason, and you get the bonuses for it being human on some of them, this makes it human. Trepanation Blade, this one was in here because with Unblockable, the more ways you can buff the power, the better. So this one really works. If you need a second to read what this one does fully, just pause the video. Loxodon Warhammer, always good for having lifelink. Sword of Vengeance, again, many abilities here, none of which except for haste were given by Dalakos. Grafted Exoskeleton is more of a win con for you, so an unblockable that has at least 10 power wins you the game because it gives the creature infect. Trickster's Talisman, these are the next couple ones are colored ones, and I wanted to make sure that that was in there as well, and they all give different abilities, and I'll let you read that. Dueling Rapier, kind of like a red Darksteel axe. Boots of Speed, I liked how cheap it was as far as the cost and the equip cost. It had nothing to do with the fact that it gave haste, but it's nice to have redundancy. And Dwarven Hammer, so you can put more tokens out if you need to. So, all in all, not a bad set of equipment that you can use, and of course, there are the golden standard of commander equipment that you could use, but they all, of course, cost $10 to $20. So, let me go ahead and move on to the last section, which is going to be utility. So, the utility section here that we're going to go over is just a mishmash of different things that will help the deck move forward and win the game. So, card draw always good. So, I went with Mysterious Tomb. I wanted to have something newer in here to try out. So, this one's kind of weird because it's double-sided. So, you can pay 2, tap it, draw a card, and then transform it, and it turns into something that taps a creature, then you have to transform it again. So, it's an every other turn card draw. Witching Well, so 1 to cast, 1 blue. It comes into play, you scry 2, and then you have to sack it to draw 2 cards. The good thing is it's an artifact, so Dalakos' ability can help pay for it. And so all the other ones as well. Slip Through Space. I know everything in here that you want to attack with is unblockable. Sometimes you just need something else to attack. You never know. The reason it's in here is actually for the fact that it's a cantrip, but the added bonus is you can make something unblockable if it's not already. Of One Mind, this one was cool. I finally got a chance to use this one. It's one of the draw cards I've got set aside that I wanted to try to use more. Didn't have a lot of opportunity to do so until now. Since the creatures in here are both half and half roughly of human, non-human, this one's pretty cool. So it's a 3 to cast, sorcery to draw 2 cards. However, it costs 2 less to cast if you control a human and a non-human, and you most likely will. So it'll be a 1 to cast, draw 2 cards. Mass Appeal. Again, I said there's a good amount of humans in here. It's 3 to cast, and you can draw a card for each human you control. Card draw is good. Thought Cast again. So it's 5 to cast, but it has affinity for artifacts, and it helps you draw 2 cards. So for each artifact in play, it costs 1 less to cast, so most of the time it's going to be 1 blue. Teleportal. more unblockable shenanigans. So it's 1 red, 1 blue. Target creature gets a buff of +1/+0, and then it's also unblockable. The good thing is you can overload it, meaning that every creature that you have gets +1/+0 and unblockable. And I know that most of the creatures that you're attacking with in here are unblockable. Sometimes for the win, you just need to attack with other things, and you don't want them to die. Make them unblockable. Raven form is a form of defense from blue. It's 3 to cast, and it turns a creature. It exiles an artifact or a creature. That can be a commander on somebody else's side, and then they have to create a 1/1 bird token. You can foretell it as well, meaning that you can put it out there as a political, don't attack me or I'm going to exile your commander. Vandal Blast, good defense as always. 1 to cast, you can destroy an artifact you don't control, but you can overload it to destroy all artifacts you don't control. So in case you're facing an opposing Dalakos deck, I guess. Ichthyomorphosis, so it's another control the commander, opponent's commander, so it's 3 to cast enchantment. You enchant a creature, and that creature loses all abilities, and becomes an 0/1 fish, so it just sits there. So unless they have a sack outlet, or they want to use a burn spell of some sort, or a kill card on their own guy, it just sits there as an 0/1. Not as good as Darksteel Mutation, but still effective. And it turns up into a frog. How cute is that? And the last card is Stoke Rebuttal. So I've been trying to find ways to use often not used cards and make them at least viable in decks. Stoke Rebuttal was one of them. It's a 3 to cast, counter target spell instant. However, it costs 1 less to cast if you have Metalcraft, which is 3 or more artifacts. So that's the deck in a nutshell. It's actually not that bad. I kind of like it. It's kind of fun. It's different. And that's what I'm all about here at Blue Bears Games. I'm about making different builds for people so they can have fun with them. So hopefully you learned something. This video specifically is for Zeke since he's the one that bought it. However, other people can enjoy this and, learn how to make decks differently. So that's where I come to this. Please do me the favor, like the video. I would really appreciate that. Share the video out to anybody who may be interested in using this style of deck, this commander, something, possibly may want to purchase a deck like this. I do actually have plans to make this again, just not right away. So if you want something like this, it's going to take me some time to rebuild it. And then finally, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I have a lot of content up here. There's a lot of learning techniques that you can do. There's a lot of different ways of thinking that I like to provide. So do me that favor. Subscribe to the channel. Watch a lot of videos. You will see I'm pretty straightforward with all of my stuff. There's no bullshit involved in my stuff, and there's no, there's nothing swaying me one way or another on my thoughts and beliefs. So you can be sure that it's going to be the most upfront information you can receive. So subscribe to this channel. That is my time for this week. Next week, we will be doing another video based on a request from Zeke. It's the 5th one, and hopefully he'll have the deck by then. That is it. Have a good one. I will see you all next week.